So welcome to Module 6. In this module, we're going to talk about the actual implementation of everything we've been talking about up until this point from a technical standpoint. So how do you actually put together this customer acquisition process? How do you actually go and build it? And in this module, it's going to be shorter. What you're going to hear from me in this video, it is going to be shorter, but below this, you're going to see lots of other videos that walk you through each of these specific technical applications. So let's begin. So the main things we're going to cover, we're going to talk about the technical side of building your customer acquisition process. We're going to look at how do you set up opt-in pages, how do you set up your sales page, sales videos, order pages, OTOs or upsells, application pages. All of that will be covered in this video and the ones below. And then we're also going to look at one of the most important parts, collecting the money. How do you actually collect money? How do you accept credit cards? I'm going to show you some easy and fast ways. I'm also going to show you some harder ways that are more long-term and more scalable. So building your customer acquisition process. Now, what I'm going to focus on mainly in this module is online. Okay, so I'm going to introduce you to several different options. I'm not going to recommend any one over the others. Anything I do show you in this module, at the current time we've tested, and it's worked well for us, but definitely do your own research. The first one that I want to introduce you to is ClickFunnels. This is a company started by Russell Brunson. It's become very popular, and part of the reason is it's easy to use, even for people who are non-technical like me, and possibly like you as well. So why is this a good service to use? You can create lead capture pages, you can create sales pages, you can create automated webinars. All of that can be done with ClickFunnels. So for example, they have a lot of different squeeze page or opt-in page templates. You don't have to design, you don't have to know how to code, none of that. And they have so many of them that you can actually make yours look very unique so that it's not going to be the same one as every other marketer online has. Webinar pages as well. So a lot of our webinar pages that we use, our automated webinars and the nice webinar registration pages that Mob has, we actually do use ClickFunnels on that. So you can pick your template, you can change your templates, it's all very easy to use. Like I said, automated webinars, it does all of that as well. It's very good for tracking as well, so you can track opt-in rates, you can track how many people brought, how many people took a certain action. So it's got its own built-in tracking platform as well. You can also do membership websites too. So if you're selling continuity, let's say you're selling some kind of digital training or digital download product, you can actually set up a membership website really easily and charge on a monthly basis and sell continuity. Even if you're selling one-time products online, you can actually have them hosted in your own members area. So that way the customer buys, they get sent a username and password for the members area, and then you can set it up so that you can automatically email your customers after they buy and they're able to log in and get what they paid for. Just like we have with mobeoffers.com. Okay, that's a membership website. We have a lot of our digital training products there, and we aren't using ClickFunnels right now for that, but that's the concept. Now, the other option is you can look at WordPress. Now, WordPress is one of the, well, it is pretty much the biggest content management system on the planet. What that means is you can build websites with WordPress. It's easy to use, and I first started using it back in 2009, and I am not naturally a technical person, believe it or not, but I started learning how to use WordPress. I brought a book on it and I started slowly learning. I can use it on a very basic level, but WordPress allows you to publish your own content online. And you can also get plugins. Plugins are extra little add-ons that make the performance of WordPress better. It allows you to do certain things. So one of those plugins is called Optimize Press. So you get WordPress and then you have Optimize Press as a plugin, and it allows you to build sales funnels. Now again, all the how-to information, all the nitty-gritty details will be below this video, and we will also make sure we keep it all up to date, because a lot of these systems that I'm showing you, they evolve. Okay, so by the time you see this, they might actually work slightly differently. They might have different user interfaces. So we're going to make sure that all the videos below this one will always be kept up to date. And by the way, if something is not up to date in this program, please let us know. We will update it right away. So once you integrate Optimize Press with WordPress, and that takes no more than 2 minutes to install it and turn it on. Again, we will have a video to show you how, but you can actually choose landing pages. You have all of these very nice templates. It's drag and drop. It's very easy to use. These are all what you call what you see is what you get. In other words, you can go and change headlines. You can go and change colors of certain buttons. And what you see when you're editing, when you click on publish, that's how it's going to look on the live website. Now, a lot of our pages at the current time of making this video, they are actually made with Optimize Press. It's not always great to use. Sometimes it's a little bit tedious, but it does make some very nicely designed pages that do look professional. So we currently do use it. The other good thing about Optimize Press is whatever pages that you create are going to be quite responsive. What I mean by that is, let's say someone's accessing your website on an iPhone. You need to have a website that's responsive to that different sized monitor, because often when certain businesses haven't designed their website to be responsive to, say, mobile, people accessing it on their phone, it's all out of place. And a lot of your traffic is going to come from people looking at their phones. So it's very important. Now, another service that's quite popular at this current time is called lead pages. Now, lead pages, initially they were set up to create opt-in pages or lead capture pages, and that's all they did. But now they actually do quite a bit more than that. They are very easy to use. You can create lots of different opt-in pages, choose from different designs. It's drag and drop. Okay, so it's very user-friendly. You get a lot of different templates. It also has some really good tracking built into it. So you can see how many people have been to your lead capture page, how many people have opted in. It's very, very easy to do split test. So you can test one version against another. And by the way, we will talk about that in Module 8, where we address optimization of your sales funnel. You can also build webinars with lead pages too. So it allows you to map out the entire thing and put it together really quickly. Let's talk about email autoresponders. So you've set up your opt-in page, people put in their email address, but where does their email address actually go? Well, it actually then goes into your database, which is stored in your email autoresponder account. Think of it like this. Every time they opt in, that email address gets sent to your email autoresponder, and you're able to log into your email autoresponder and send out emails to everyone on your list whenever you want. I used to think that businesses had to manually email all their leads, and clearly they can't do that if they have 50,000, 100,000 leads. So that's why you have an email autoresponder. Now, one of the most popular ones is called Aweber. I've used Aweber before. It's a great service. It's got a very user-friendly dashboard. You can do split test quite easily. In the very beginning, you're not going to worry too much about split testing emails. There's definitely much higher leverage split tests you can do than just individual emails, but you can do that. You can create multiple lists. So you might have a list of prospects that come from a particular ad source. You might have 5 main advertising sources, like a direct mail list, a Facebook fan page following, your YouTube fan base. Okay, so you've got different lists, and you want to keep them separate because you're likely going to talk to them in a slightly different way depending on how they came in. You could have a prospect list and a buyer list. If you have 5 different products, you could have 5 different lists for each product. And then that way, the lower priced product, you market to that list and you help move them through your Ascension program. Now, it's also really easy to set up a follow-up sequence with Aweber too. So you can have day 1, day 2, day 3. You can space it out, so it could be day 2, then day 4, then day 9. It's very flexible. You can also tell it what time you want it to send the emails. All the most popular email autoresponder services, they pretty much all allow you to do that. You can also send the emails at a certain time in the prospect's local time zone too. You can see all the open rates for every single autoresponder message you send out collectively. It's easy to create the forms. So the forms where people actually enter their email address on the opt-in page to get onto your list and have their email address sent to your email autoresponder. Those forms can be customized and you can actually create them with this drag and drop builder that Aweber has. iContact is just another email autoresponder service, also quite popular, has a very user-friendly dashboard, easy to set up emails and check your reports. You can create different lists, of course. Again, they all allow you to do this. It's also quite friendly when it comes to integration. So when I say integrations, as you build your business, you're going to start to use different platforms. So for example, you might have your shopping cart platform, you could have a tracking platform, and you could have your email autoresponder platform. And you might not recognize this right now. Maybe you're just starting out. And when you do start out, my advice is keep things very simple. However, as your business evolves, as it grows, you will need to get additional platforms and have them talk to each other, communicate with each other. In other words, they need to be able to integrate with each other. I'll give you a quick example. So, for example, in Mob, we have different merchant accounts, different payment gateways, and we need all of that to be able to talk to our shopping carts, to be able to talk to our email autoresponder. So I don't get involved in that. That's way beyond me. I would never know how to do any of that. But I have technical people on my team and they do all of that. They do all the integrations. Now, some of these platforms will integrate with others much easier. They're actually designed to integrate with others much easier. So you always want to go after the ones that do allow integrations and it's not going to be a hassle. GetResponse is also another popular email autoresponder service. Great dashboard, great tracking. Also has great email templates if you want to use them. So if you want to get the nicer HTML email templates instead of just plain black text, you can also do that. And all of these email autoresponders have great help as well. So if you've never used them before, if it looks too technical and way beyond you, don't let that scare you away, okay? Just go through their help, their training videos. It takes a little bit of patience, but the fastest way to learn is just to dive in and start doing it. There's also MailChimp as well. I've used MailChimp and a lot of people like MailChimp. I'm not the biggest fan of MailChimp for certain reasons, but people definitely do use it, so you might want to check them out. They do have great reporting, so you can pull up nice reports just like this one, and also do the split test as well. So let's talk about your shopping cart. Now, why do you need to get a shopping cart? Well, when you start processing payments and you want to use your own merchant accounts, you're going to need a shopping cart. Now, a shopping cart is just a fancy piece of software that's going to allow you to build order pages, and it's going to integrate the order pages, which take very sensitive data, very valuable data, which is credit card data, and it's got to protect that data, encrypt it, and it sends it to the merchant account bank basically and sends it back. And it's more technical than I want to go into right now, but you need a shopping cart if you want to process your own payments through your own merchant account. Now, I'll talk about getting your own merchant account in just a moment, but as far as popular shopping carts out there, one of them is called Infusionsoft. There's also one shopping cart as well. There's lots of shopping carts. In fact, if you just go on Google shopping carts, you will find probably hundreds of them. Pick one of the more popular ones. They all do pretty much the same job. And when you're starting out, you don't need to overanalyze which email autoresponder, which shopping cart, which CRM. You don't need to spend too much time trying to choose the best one. And by the way, when you start asking around and asking people what their favorite one is, you're going to get all kinds of different opinions. People will tell you why this one's great, this one's bad. If they're popular, then they're all going to be relatively good. Otherwise, they wouldn't have become popular. So don't waste too much time and energy overanalyzing which one to go with. Just choose one. And if you need to change in the future, it can be done. Okay, it's not a big deal if you do need to change down the line. Let's talk about CRMs. So CRM is just an acronym for Customer Relationship Management, and it's a type of software. Okay, it's just one of those fancy technical jargon words they like to use. And one of the ones that I've used is called Infusionsoft. Now, I don't recommend you get Infusionsoft unless you are already relatively established, you already are getting sales, then you might look at getting Infusionsoft. It's more expensive than your email autoresponders, obviously, because it's got a lot more features, but it does have some pretty amazing marketing automation. So I used Infusionsoft for a number of years, and I eventually moved off Infusionsoft for a number of reasons as well. We outgrew it. But for a business that's doing, say, less than 10 million per year and has less than, say, 100 staff, this can be very powerful marketing automation. What I really do like about Infusionsoft is their dashboard. One of the most valuable things you can do as you start to scale your business is get a dashboard built or leverage something like this, a CRM that already has dashboards built into it, so you can see a visual representation of your metrics. This is really important because you can spot trends, you can keep track of where your revenue is, what products are selling well, you can spot problems very quickly when you can see it all visually on graphs. So I'm very much a dashboard kind of guy. I love my dashboards and I need them to monitor what's happening in the business. Infusionsoft has some really powerful dashboard features. Obviously, you can see the main ones like revenue, product sales, but you can also be looking at leads coming in. You can graph it so you can see, are you trending up, are you trending down? Anything you can imagine measuring, you can probably measure it on the Infusionsoft dashboard. This is also something that's very popular with Infusionsoft users, their campaign builder. So when you're building out your customer acquisition process, it really helps if you can visualize the whole process in front of you. And when you start out, I recommend you just do this on pen and paper. You actually draw it out by hand. But then when it comes to actually building it, you can use Infusionsoft's campaign builder and it's drag and drop, and you can literally plan out the entire business. So for example, you can see all your advertising sources. In this case, they all go to the event registration page. They go into an email autoresponder sequence. They then get invited to attend a webinar. They brought at the event or they did not buy at the event. So you can segment where you send prospects to at different points in your customer acquisition process. And this can be as simple or as complex as you like. In the beginning, my advice is keep it simple, okay? Keep it simple, but you can certainly start to add in different triggers and different segues or different alternative paths depending on how people interact through your sales cycle. Okay, so how are they interacting with your marketing? Are they showing up to events? Are they clicking links? Are they filling out application forms? Depending on their behavior, you send them down different paths. Now, Infusionsoft also integrates with a lot of other programs as well, and you can also get a lot of add-ons for it too. So you can get, they're almost like plugins that integrate with it and make it even more powerful. Now, another CRM that I've used and that a lot of people like is called Entreport. It's got its pros, it also has its limits. We are currently, at the time of making this, we're actually on our way out of Entreport. We're actually leaving them to move into something else. Really mainly because we outgrew them. Our business got too big. But again, if you're operating below 10 million per year, below 100 staff, Entreport has some pretty powerful marketing automation as well. So you will be able to get nice dashboards, certainly all the email automation, the email follow-ups, all of that, campaigns that are triggered by certain actions, you can get all of that with Entreport. And they also have their own little drag and drop campaign builder as well. And it's also very easy to create new sequences as well. Now, here's the big tip I'm going to give you, and I wish someone had given me this tip back in 2012, early 2012, because it would have saved me probably about $100,000. So I'm going to now pass on this tip to you, which I learned the hard way. When you're starting out, my advice is, yes, you want to keep things simple, but once you get some momentum, once your business is doing, say, more than 20,000 a month and you're starting to scale, really consider keeping your email autoresponder service and your CRM, which is where you have all your order pages and all your marketing automation, keep them separate. Okay, keep them separate. I made the mistake of choosing one of these all-in-one solutions where they allowed you to do all the email follow-up, so all the email autoresponder things, shopping carts, marketing automation, all in one. And that was the initial attraction. I thought, I don't want to have multiple different platforms out there integrated with each other and have this big mess. So I want the all-in-one solution. Well, that's a good idea until something goes wrong with the all-in-one solution and suddenly your whole business is put on hold. So here's what happened to me. I was promoting an affiliate launch and I was doing it fairly aggressively. I was sending out a lot of emails because they were actually giving away an Audi R8 sports car to whoever could make the most sales. And I wanted to win the car. So I was promoting to my list and telling people they should buy this course. It was also a course that I co-created, so I knew it was a great course. I wanted people to get it. I knew they would get value from it. But I was sending out at one point 2 and even 3 emails in one day in the final 24 hours of that launch. I had some very tough competition. Now, I ended up coming second. If I'd had about 10% more sales, I would have won the car, but instead I won a watch. But because I was emailing so aggressively, my spam complaint rate, it actually went up. And if you get more than 1 out of 1,000, that's when you can start to get above the rate that you're not meant to cross. 1 out of 1,000. So in other words, back then I had about 200,000 people on my list. If I got just 1 out of 1,000 people or more hitting that spam complaint button, that was really not good. And unfortunately, I went above board in sending too many emails. There was no malicious intent whatsoever, but my spam complaint rate got too high, and the particular service I was using, which I won't name right now, they decided to freeze my ability to send out emails. So for about 3 weeks, I could not send a single email to my list. Back then, email marketing was my main revenue source, and we were doing over 100,000 in revenue per month. So to lose 3 weeks of email marketing, that was an enormous cost. And we had to quickly move out of that system, at least as far as our email marketing goes, into another system. And if I'd done things differently, if I'd kept my main email marketing with one email marketing program and all of my marketing automation and shopping cards in another, well, then that wouldn't have happened. They could have shut down my email autoresponder service, but I could still at least email customers, send them login details. It wouldn't put my whole business on hold. So my advice to you is just be careful in how you set this up. Once you get some momentum behind you, consider separating things because, as Dan Kennedy says, 1 is the most dangerous number in business. You don't ever want to be 100% dependent on any one of these systems because if something happens that's out of your control with that software or that platform, that can really affect your business. So let's talk about getting paid. How do you get paid in business when you're selling online? How do you collect credit cards? Well, first of all, you need to be able to collect credit cards if you're going to sell outside of your local market. You really do. It's not an if, it's a definite, you do need it. So you need to be able to collect Visa and Mastercard predominantly. Those are the 2 big ones. American Express, Discover, those are also very important, but Visa and Mastercard make up the vast majority of online credit card transactions. So how do you do it? Well, there's 2 main options. My advice to you, if you're starting out, you're going to go with the easy option. I'll tell you what that is in just a moment. The harder option is you actually get your own self-hosted payment platform. Okay, in other words, you get your own merchant account instead of using another third-party one. So the third-party ones could be something like PayPal. Okay, in other words, another company processes the payment for you. They collect the money, they collect the credit cards, they send the money to you, and they take a transaction fee. It could be a small percentage or it could even be a slightly larger percentage, but they take a transaction fee. That's their business model. Downside of that is if they shut you down, and this again relates back to don't just use one, okay, otherwise that'll get you in trouble. Always spread the risk. But if something goes wrong, they shut you down or something happens, which it could, then suddenly you don't have control and you can't collect the money. So there's pros and cons of each. Let's go through them. So the first one is where you choose to self-host. In other words, you're going to go and get your own merchant account. Your own merchant account means that you can collect credit card payments. And by the way, you never get the credit card info. It's all encrypted. So you as the business owner, you won't even see the credit card info of your customers, which is the way it should be. That's to protect the customer's very private and confidential credit card details. But you're collecting credit card payments. The money flows through usually a payment gateway and goes directly into your merchant account. And you're paying your merchant account fees. Now, your merchant account fees could be anywhere from, say, 2% right up to 7%, 8%, even higher. It depends entirely on the risk of your industry, okay, from the bank's perspective, and the risk of your business. And also how desperate you are for merchant accounts. The more desperate you are, the more you need them, the more they are going to charge you. There have been times in Mobe's history where I'll tell you in just a moment, where we have really needed merchant accounts, and when we've got down to just having one merchant account left, they were charging us an just insane amount. But the more we got, now we have a lot, then the more negotiation power you have to bring them down, okay, and to go from, say, 5% down to 3% or even possibly lower. But let's talk about getting merchant accounts. So first of all, you want to find a bank that offers merchant accounts. If you go to your local bank and you walk in and you say, do you have merchant accounts where I can collect credit card payments online? They're going to tell you usually whether they do or whether they don't. Most of the main banks will say yes, they do. They're going to give you an application form. You're going to go through, fill it out. They will want to know about your current volume. So if you're a brand new business and you don't have volume yet, then you can be honest about that, but they might not be that interested. But just put all the details about your business. Keep in mind that there's certain industries that they consider to be high risk. So internet marketing is considered high risk. Selling information products, for a lot of them, that's considered high risk. I'm not saying you won't get approved. I'm just saying that they probably will want to charge slightly higher merchant account fees. But you go through that normal application process. That could take a week. It could take a lot longer. It could take over a month. My advice is apply for way more than you need. So go and apply for a whole bunch of them. And once you get approved, they will then tell you what the next step is. Now, depending on what country you live in, they operate slightly differently. In Australia, for example, you would have something called a payment gateway, and then you have the merchant account. So the payment gateway is something you need to get, but you can only get that after you've got the merchant account. Whereas in America, a lot of the merchant accounts actually have the payment gateway part included. So I'm going to put some more detailed videos below this one which explain more about different merchant account solutions and how to go about getting them and more details. But again, you just want to apply for a lot of them. Once you do get one, start processing some volume through it, and you're going to learn about the business very quickly. You're going to learn about doing refunds. No matter how good you are going to have refunds. Always refund promptly. Some advice someone once gave me, a very good marketer, he said, never fight a fighter. In other words, if you have a customer who they want to refund your $50 product, it's not worth it for you to go and hassle and fight them over $50, okay? Just be done with it, move on. So you're going to learn about refunds. You're going to learn about chargebacks too. I'll talk about chargebacks in just a moment. Now, once you get approved, you're going to be able to accept Visa, hopefully, Mastercard. Again, those are the two main ones. Try and get Discover, and also go and apply for American Express. American Express, they are their own separate deal. So you're going to need to go to them separately. You're actually going to need to go to American Express separately and tell them you want to be able to process credit cards with a merchant account with them, and they'll tell you how to apply. Now, once you get approved, you're going to get given something called a merchant account ID, or a MID. You need the merchant account ID to integrate with the shopping cart. Now, by the way, if none of this makes sense, don't worry too much, because it didn't make sense to me either when I started out, and I just went and found the people who knew how to do it. Okay, so you can go and find people who know all about this. We'll talk about that in just a moment later on in this video, and they can take care of it for you. I'm just telling you how it works so you're at least familiar with where everything is and you have an idea. Now, with merchant accounts, they're also usually going to want to have a reserve. So what a reserve means is that every, say, $100 that you process, they're going to keep maybe $10 of it, and they won't release that $10 for 30 days, for 3 months. It could even be for 6 months. And how much of a reserve that they choose to hold and how frequently they choose to pay it out to you, or how short that amount of time is, again, that will depend on risk of your industry, of your business, your past reports as far as processing through merchant accounts. So it really depends, but typically it could be, say, 6 months, 10%, something like that. And this is also, they can protect their own risk, because they have risk taking you on. There's a very real risk that you could be processing payments and collecting the money, and then you could run away and not honor all the obligations to the customers, and the bank is left with a bunch of customers who are very unhappy because they paid money, didn't get the product, didn't get the service. So that's why they're like this. That's why they have all of these strict requirements, and they have reserves and all of that. One final thing I want to add, when it comes to getting a merchant account, it really helps if you have someone who does this business full time. In other words, they get merchant accounts for different businesses. Now, I have someone that I use with Mobe who gets a lot of our merchant accounts, and this person, without them, we really wouldn't be able to have such stable payment processing abilities like we do. They are really important to our business. So it really helps if you can find someone like that, and what they get out of it is they collect a small percentage of everything you process. Now, it could be different amounts. It could be literally up to 1%, but hopefully it's a lot lower than that. But their incentive is to get you a merchant account so that they can collect a percentage. But they also have a big incentive then to make sure that you keep your merchant account up. In other words, to make sure that nothing goes wrong and that you don't lose your ability to process. So if you can find a really good person to do that, it's worth having them get that percentage. So let's say you don't want to go down that path and get your own merchant accounts, which, to be honest, in the very beginning, I wouldn't recommend. You can go after a third-party solution, and one of the most popular ones is simply PayPal. PayPal make it really easy for you as a business owner to be able to use their platform to process payments. So all you have to do is go to the PayPal website and look in the menu, and they will tell you exactly how to get what's called a Buy Now button, and it looks just like this. It's a little Buy Now button that you can install on your website, and you tell PayPal what you're selling, what the price point is, and it's really easy to get set up. In fact, in just less than an hour, you could have a Buy Now button on your website and be accepting Visa, Mastercard, all the main credit cards. Now, PayPal, the one downside about PayPal is that they will shut you down for very small things, okay? And their whole approach is they'll freeze your account or they will restrict your account, and then they will ask questions. So I know a lot of people who've had money locked up in PayPal. When they do it, they will usually do it for 6 months. I've also had that happen to me. It depends on what industry you're in. If you're selling information courses or you're in the internet marketing niche, you're not exactly that popular with PayPal. They tend to look at that kind of industry. They have much harsher requirements as for what you can and you can't do. And if you're in the network marketing, MLM kind of industry, you can almost forget about it. PayPal don't really like to process much for that industry. There are exceptions to the rule, but PayPal, I have a little bit of a love-hate relationship with PayPal, I really do. But when you're starting out, they are great to use, okay? It's quick, it's easy. With what they charge you, it's reasonably fair. They're going to take a small percentage I don't know the exact amount, but I believe it's under 2 or 3%. So in the very beginning, just to get you up and running, this is fine, okay? And then you can go and apply for the merchant accounts while you're processing payments with PayPal. If you do decide to go down the path of getting your own merchant accounts, let me just talk to you briefly about chargebacks and dealing with all of that, managing it, and keeping things healthy with your merchant account. So again, no matter how good you are, you're going to have refunds, and you're also going to have, eventually, chargebacks. Chargebacks are basically when a customer goes to their bank and says, I want to reverse this charge on my card. They fill out a form, they're asked why, and it can be for a number of reasons. Here's some of them. They feel they didn't get the product or service, maybe it didn't arrive in the mail, maybe they didn't get online access, whatever reason. They don't recognize the charge. So your descriptor is very important. And what's a descriptor? Basically, when you check your credit card statement and you see all the different businesses that you brought from, the name of the business that you see, that's called the descriptor. Make sure your descriptor is ideally your website, and it's got the .com in it, so that when people look at their credit card statement, they can see, for example, mobe.com or whatever your business is, and if they don't remember what they brought, they can easily go to the website and be reminded. But if you use some vague company name that you don't show to the public usually in your marketing, they're not going to recognize it, and that's one of the first things they're going to charge back. So you've got to be careful about what you use on your descriptor. We even started adding 1-800 phone numbers to our descriptor so they could actually call us, and if they didn't recognize the charge, they could ask us, what's this about? We could get their name, and then we'd tell them exactly what product they'd brought and when. They can also charge back because they believe the product or service was defective, not what it was described. Sometimes you're going to have the case where someone has either stolen or got someone else's credit card and used it without their permission to buy from your business. We've had this happen many times before. Sometimes it could even be someone in a family has gone and borrowed a credit card from their parent or their kids, and they forgot to actually tell them about it. So sometimes that's the reason. But here's the last reason, and unfortunately this is a reason that happens more and more often these days. Sometimes people know exactly what they're buying from you. They get your product, they get your service, they get value from it, but they decide they don't want to pay for it. They just want to get the value and not have to pay for it. So they go and say to their bank that they didn't order it or that the charge shouldn't be there. They get their money back and they've got value from you. And unfortunately, you just have to deal with those kind of people. It's a part of the business, and all you do in that case is you just note down their name and you make sure you don't ever sell to them again. So just a few tips for preventing chargebacks. So first of all, what I said before about the descriptor. Second of all, make sure that when you have an order, you email your